The 8 Minute Devotion is on a 12-week break for the summer. We'll be back with brand new episodes on September 9th. Until then, enjoy this episode from our classic I Am series, first recorded back in 2019. God bless and have a great summer. Hello, and welcome back to the 8 Minute Devotion, our Friday episode, last episode of the week. And we are going to start on the third of the 7 I Ams of Jesus that were given to us in the Gospel of John. The third of them, Jesus said, I am the door of the sheep. I am the door of the sheep. And Jesus says this in John 10, verse 7 until verse 10. Let's read it. John 10, verse 7 until verse 10. So Jesus again said to them, Truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Jesus here, of course, said in verse 7, I am the door of the sheep. He reiterates in verse 9, I am the door. And what we see here and what we need to understand right at the beginning, introduction today, is that Jesus is the door of salvation. He is not a door, but he is the door. He is the door of salvation. He is unique as the door. You know, there's a unique aspect about Jesus above every other religion, above every other faith. Jesus alone is the door to eternal life. Jesus alone is the door to the Father. There is no other name given under heaven whereby man can be saved. Acts 4 and verse 12, Jesus is the door. And you know, the first thing we need to realize is that Jesus is the door to salvation. We're going to be looking at this in different ways over the next few days, next week. But let's remember, let's realize, let's proclaim Jesus is the door to salvation. He's the only way to the Father. He's the only way to eternal life. And really, as I just said, this is unique in Christianity. The insistence on Jesus as the only way to heaven. I tell you, friends, it doesn't matter if you are good. It doesn't matter if you do a lot of nice things. It doesn't matter if you live your life in a way where you try to be ethical. It doesn't matter if you follow any other God and if you follow them as well as you can and as close as you can. You cannot be saved outside of Jesus. He is the only door and the only way, which he makes clear over and over. It doesn't matter if you call yourself a Christian. Doesn't matter if you grow up in a Christian home. Doesn't matter if you go to church every week. If you don't personally know and follow Jesus, if you don't personally have faith in him, you cannot be saved. Faith in Jesus, faith in that relationship with Jesus, that is the only door to salvation. And it's amazing the type of a door that we have, the only way. You know, this insistence on Jesus as the only way, this is one reason that Christianity, whenever it comes into a culture, wherever Christianity is, it always gets in conflicts with other cultures and other religions. It's not that Christianity is violent. We are not. The true Christian message is never violent. It's never a message that's taken through violence. It's not that Christians don't help and bless others. We do. We bless other believers. We bless non-believers. Christianity has always throughout history been the most humanitarian faith. Even to today, most hospitals, they all have Christian roots. Even in countries and cultures that would not be considered Christian, most of their hospitals all have Christian names because throughout history, Christians have started helping those in need. So that's not the reason we're always rejected and we always get in conflicts, because we're not violent. We do help and bless people, but yet at the core of our belief, we do have this insistence. We are unique because Jesus is unique. He is the only way to salvation. He is the only door. You know, many other religions portray themselves as a way to salvation. Hinduism has a whole pantheon of gods. Buddhism, there are many different ways to enlightenment. But Christianity insists we are the only way And actually, I stated that wrong. It's not that we are the only way, but Jesus is the only way. You put your faith in him or you cannot be saved. It's a zero-sum belief, a zero-sum faith, because we know Jesus is the only way. Even throughout history, the Greeks and Romans, when they would take over a place, when they would take over a city, a country, they normally didn't require the subdued culture to give up their gods, but rather simply to add to them. They would say, look, you can keep worshiping your God as long as you also worship ours. Worship your gods and worship ours, and everything will be fine. But when they subdued the Jews, since they worshiped the true God, Yahweh, they always said no to that. And that caused a ton of problems. And then later with the Christians always said, no, our God is God alone. He is the only God. He is unique. And this caused endless problems for conquering countries. Not because the Jews or the Christians were particularly violent. They weren't. They were peaceful, but because they insisted their God is the only true God. Of course, this goes against the grain of our modern way of thinking. Our modern way of thinking says, how dare you be so narrow to say Jesus is the only door? How dare you say there is only one way? You can't make an absolute claim to truth. There is no absolute truth. That's the modern way of thinking, but it's nonsense. To say that there's no absolute truth, that's also an absolute truth claim. If you say there can't be absolute truth, you're making a claim to absolute truth. There is absolute truth, and his name is Jesus, and we find that absolute truth in the Bible. He is the door to salvation. If Christianity is true, which of course it is, you would actually expect it to be narrow. You would expect there to be one door. The universe is narrow. What goes up must come down. We don't have many options. Sometimes gravity works, sometimes it doesn't. No, it's narrow. Gravity always works. If it goes up, it always goes down. As human beings, we must breathe oxygen to survive. We are not given a whole buffet of options of what to breathe. We must have oxygen. It is narrow. You think of math. 5 plus 5 always equals 10. You can try to do whatever you want, but 5 plus 5 will always equal 10. There aren't many options. Truth, even in our observed universe, truth tends to be narrow, and ultimate truth is all the more narrow. Ultimate truth is all the more narrow. Jesus is the only door. Friends, if you know him, thank God that he found you, that he has saved you. And also, friends, carry this message to others. Let them know there is a door, there is a way to salvation, but there's only one way, and his name is Jesus. If you're listening to this and you don't know him, come to him. Ask him into your life. Give your life to him. Jesus is the only way. He is the only door. We're going to be looking more at this next week on the 8-Minute Devotion.
Thank you for listening to the 8-Minute Devotion. We trust you've been encouraged and blessed today. Please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or by visiting the8minutedevotion.podbean.com. For questions or comments, please email us at the8minutedevotion@gmail.com or visit our Facebook page. We would love to hear from you.